Hi, welcome back to our channel. We are What Genre? Have you ever heard of blues music before? Today's episode will be covering the history and evolution of blues music. First of all, the name blues is the shortened word for the phrase blue devils, referring to the upsetting hallucination caused by alcohol withdrawal, describing the state of depression and upset, and later adopted as the name for melancholic songs that the musical genre encapsulates. Hence, blues lyric often surrounds personality adversity, about overcoming hard luck and expressing frustration feelings. On the other hand, it's more than just self-pity. It's also about having fun, enjoying life, and just simply relaxing. Blues is all about expressing your true gut feelings and communicating genuine emotions. The two major speculations regarding the origin of blues music are either in southern Texas or in Clarkdale, Mississippi. Both coincide more or less with the recollection of Jelly Roll Morton, claiming that he first heard of blues music in New Orleans, and Ma Rainey, who remembered first hearing blues in the same year in Missouri, plus W.C. Handy, who recalled first hearing blues music in Mississippi. However, the origin of blues music was poorly documented due to racial discrimination and low literacy rate among rural African Americans at the time, so no one knows the answer. Thanks to the contribution of several scholars and researchers, the first appearance of blues music is usually dated after the Emancipation Act of 1863, between the 1860s and the 1890s. This period coincides with the post-emancipation and later the establishment of juke joints, which is a place where African Americans went to listen to music, dance, or gamble after working all day. It is also the period corresponding to the transition period from slavery to sharecropping, small-scale agriculture production, and the expansion of railroads in America. Unfortunately, the social and economic reasons for the appearance of blues music are not fully understood yet. In simple words, blues music was created by enslaved African Americans while working on Southern plantations. The origin of blues are also closely related to the religious music of the Afro-American community, the spirituals. The origin of spirituals could be dated much further back than blues, around the middle of the 18th century, when the slaves were Christianized and began to sing and play Christian hymns. Before blues gained its formation definition in terms of chord progression, it was defined as a secular counterpart of spirituals. By the 1900s, the Tin Pan Alley, the New York City-centric music publishers and songwriters who dominated the popular music of the United States in the late 19th century, early 20th century, adopted blues elements. In the 1920s, blues gradually became a major element of not just African American, but American popular music too, and reached wide audiences. Blues evolved from informal performance in bars to entertainment in theaters. Several record companies began to record African American music. As the recording industry grew, country blues performers like Bo Carter, Jimmy Rogers, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Looney Johnson, Tampa Red, and Blind Blake became more popular in the African American community. The first blues recordings from the 1920s are categorized as traditional, rural country blues and more polished city or urban blues. The transition from country blues to urban blues that began in the 1920s was driven by a successive wave of the economic crisis and booms that led many rural blacks to move to urban areas, in a movement known as the Great Migration. The long boom following World War II induced another massive migration of the African American population, the Second Great Migration, which was accompanied by a significant increase of the real income of the urban blacks. The new migrants constituted a new market for the music industry. After World War II, new styles of electric blues became popular in cities such as Chicago, Memphis, Detroit, and St. Louis. In the 1950s, blues had a huge influence on the mainstream American popular music. While popular musicians like Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry, both recorded for chess, were influenced by the Chicago blues. Their enthusiastic playing styles departed from the melancholy aspect of blues. By the beginning of the 1960s, genres influenced by African American music such as rock and roll and soul were part of mainstream popular music. White performers such as the Rolling Stones and the Beatles have brought African American music to new audiences, both within the United States and abroad. The Civil Rights Movement and the Free Speech Movement prompted a resurgence of interest in African root music and early African American music, where traditional blues are brought up to new audiences, reviving interest in pre-war acoustic blues. In 1963, Leroy Jones, later known as Amiri Baraka, wrote the first book about the social history of blues and blues people, the Negro music in white America. Blues continued in both traditional and new forms during the 80s to the 90s. In the beginning of 1990s, the advent of digital multi-track recording, other technologies, digital and new marketing strategies including video clip production increased costs, challenging the spontaneity and the improvisation that are an important component of blues music. At the same time, major cities began forming blues societies. Outdoor blues festivals became more common, and more nightclubs and venues for blues emerged. Nowadays, blues performers explore a vast range of musical genres and is constantly evolving and adopting more elements. Anyways, this is the end of this episode. Hope you learned something new. If you want to learn not just the history but more about blues music, please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned.